Welcome back to the West Coast Sports Debacle. We're going to be talking about the San Francisco 49ers draft recap here live on Facebook. And we'll be airing this also on YouTube as well. Possibly.
Probably.
Unless, of course, you really hate this video and you think that we're complete assholes. Then we will probably re-air it anyways.
Well, I mean, we're not the biggest Niner fans in the world.
No, but I do have a lot of friends that are Niners fans. Ronnie Dominguez, shout out to you if you're going to join in on this and watch this later. I know that you're a huge Niners fan. Brandon Gray, then the name maker of West Coast Sports Debacle, is a huge 49ers fan too. We'll probably have him on the show sometime to talk about them and the San Diego Padres. We'll get to baseball later on, like I said, mostly focusing on the San Francisco 49ers.
There's a lot of fans around here, I noticed.
Yeah, even though we're not in the Bay Area, we're down in the Pass area in Southern California.
Yeah, I was going to say, people in, Michigan aren't going to know what that means.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many people from Michigan are probably going to watch a San Francisco 49ers draft recap.
It's wishful thinking, man. Come on now.
Maybe a couple
Shoot for
of
the
them.
stars.
I hope that some... If you're from Michigan, shout out.
Flint, Michigan.
Flint. Oh, gosh. The tropics.
We will win fourth place.
The tropics. All right, so...
Damn it, Picardo's learn fucking English.
We have to figure out some of this stuff. We're going to kind of wing this on the fly. I'm sorry, you guys that really like the 49ers.
Anyways, what is your take on the draft for the Niners as a whole?
You know what? Them getting the 9th pick from the Raiders in that coin flip or whatever, that was a big deal for them because they ended up stealing in front of the Raiders and got Mike McGlinchey as their first round pick. Thought that was a great pickup for them. It's one of the most established tackles coming out in the draft, in my opinion. I still would have picked the Raiders tackle over him if it was me. But this guy is also very talented.
And I think you mentioned it earlier that there's a strong possibility that the Raiders may not have traded down in the draft had they not taken or had Kalinchi not gone off the board at number 9, or if they did not win the coin flip. So I think that actually changed a lot.
It did. It was really a big changing point for the entire draft at that point because the Raiders were going to go tackle no matter what, whether it was McGlinchey or with their guy that they got.
Yeah, they were going to do that.
And if they didn't have either one of those tackles there on the board, they probably would have gone with a linebacker like everybody would have wanted them to. And I was surprised that the 49ers actually didn't get Roquan or any of the linebackers that were on the board.
Well, Roquan actually went the pick before them.
That's true. And so that probably forced their hand into McGlinchey.
Yeah, I mean,
which then forced the hand of the Raiders. And like I said...
It's funny how the draft works like that.
Yeah, it's a chain reaction of events.
They still could have gotten a good linebacker at Tremaine Edmonds, but I feel like this actually kind of shows what the Niners are all about moving forward and protecting Jimmy Garoppolo.
I gave my opinion on that guy, Edwards, in the Raiders review, but I think that any team who is taking him, it's a project player. He's not necessarily an insert-in, ready-to-go player.
Well, he's 19 years old.
Exactly, and that's my problem with the number 1 draft pick, though, being a 19-year-old player. You're not going to get a high impact out of him. But this guy's been in playing football for a long time, and he's 6'8", 309 pounds. You can't really get much better than that as a tackle, too.
Right. And something that I honestly haven't heard anyone really talk about is the fact of that he blocked for DeShone Kizer when he was in Notre Dame. And what's funny about that is the fact that I feel like if he can make him look good after seeing what he did in Cleveland, that kind of says how good of an offensive tackle this guy really is.
It does. And he blocked for the best running back coming out into... No, I lied. That's wrong. I'm completely wrong.
You're thinking Penn State, sir?
Yes, I was thinking Penn State right now. Wow. I was way off.
At least you know we're not scripting this.
Yeah, it's not planned at all. Well,
what is our honest opinions?
Anyways, screwed up on that one, but we're going to go to round 2 where I probably won't screw up this one maybe. Garoppolo is going to be happy with this draft, in my opinion, because he got a tackle to block for him, and he got Dante Pettis, the wide receiver out of Washington. that's a great receiver too.
Right. You combine him with Godwin on the other side of it, along with they brought in McKinnon as a pass catching back. I noticed that they're basically going all in on Garoppolo, saying that we want to become a high-powered offense that can keep up with the Rams, and we'll see how it works out.
And in my opinion, right now, the 49ers are the team prime to keep up with them in the division this year.
Most definitely.
And Dante Pettis is actually going to be a guy that can get some separation, I think, in the pros, too. So that will help just Garoppolo getting the ball downfield.
Yes, definitely.
And you know, they've developed that lineman, so maybe they can get some extra blockers in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran the ball pretty good last year. Not great. But.
No, but I mean, when you got Carlos Hyde at running back, who I feel like is an okay back at best. Not to say that McKinnon's better, but I think McKinnon will fit the role of what they were trying to do a lot better.
Well, they'll be able to swing him out in the open a little bit more and get Garoppolo some swing passes and some check down routes this year, as opposed to him battling with a running back that didn't really have.
I mean, he had the one great game against the Rams on Thursday Night Football early in the year, but aside from that, he was okay at best.
That's true. All right, so speaking of players or positions that aren't going to be so good for the 49ers, it sounds like their linebacker depth chart got depleted a little bit again.
Just a pinch.
Yeah, some legal troubles, but we're not going to go into that too much because we don't like talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
I avoided the Donald Penn nonsense.
Yeah.
So we're going to avoid this one too.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to just talk about how they got a linebacker out of BYU named Fred Warner, 70th overall, in a pick from Chicago.
Right, they got it in a trade. Without going into much detail on the Reuben Foster situation, do you think that they actually drafted this guy to replace him, or do you think they drafted this guy in regards of having Foster on the field alongside with him?
Eventually with Foster alongside with him. I just think that this is a nice role player for him. Again, like they're going to have another guy that can work around him, but they're going to need to replace and get a middle linebacker if that issue can persist.
Right. I mean, he actually is a little undersized from what I can tell. But to be honest, I think that will be in their favor because, like we just talked about, they're going to be trying to keep up with the Rams, and I think they're going to need to be able to cover with their linebackers to win those games.
That's true. Because they have and they just drafted a quick running back themselves, as we just covered the Rams earlier on.
Right.
So if you want some in-depth analysis of the Rams, we already have that video up. The Raiders, and also I did the San Diego Chargers yesterday. We're going to stick mostly to West Coast teams, and if you have a team that's nearby that you would like us to cover, go ahead and hit us up in the comments. Mm-hmm. Let us know. And subscribe or like or do the thingy mabob that tells you that you like us. Please like us. So
they actually had another pick in the third round, pick number 95 that they got from New England, Tavarius Moore. He's a defensive back out of Southern Miss.
Yeah, 6'2", 190 pounds. Mm-hmm. Played for 2 seasons over there at Southern Miss. He had tackled 104 tackles. This is actually a notification. Terrible. This is actually information from the 49ers website itself. So they had done a little bit of in-depth analysis of the guy.
Right. I kind of foresee him being a guy that's going to be filling in here and there, kind of like how in regards to like Oakland with Carl Joseph's rookie year, how he was playing a lot, but he wasn't necessarily like the number one guy at safety. That's kind of how I foresee this guy.
Could you see him in the nickel?
I could see him in the nickel, in the dime, maybe in the quarter for sure.
Especially since he's a DB, so he's an all-around defensive back.
Right.
It looks like he's got a lot of speed to play safety, but then he doesn't seem like he's a super fast corner, possibly? Is that what I think they're saying about this guy?
Yeah. From what I've seen a little bit, I think he kind of reminds me of like a poor man's Earl Thomas.
Okay.
Who can do it all in a sense, but he's obviously not going to be producing at the level of Earl Thomas. But
if you can get a poor man's Earl Thomas out of a third-round pick, that's not too bad value.
Not at all.
Now, 128th overall in the 4th round, and a draft pick from Pittsburgh, Contavious Street, a defensive lineman out of NC State.
Right. This is going to be definitely good depth for them, trying to contain guys like Gurley, David Johnson. I think that's going to be a very valuable pick for them moving forward.
Attacking up the middle, defensively stops pretty much all offensive attacks. It's really hard to progress and move downfield when you have defensive linemen staring you right in the face as the snap comes off.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about him is that he actually tore his ACL prior to the draft, and so I think that's actually the reason they took him in the 4th.
Because he slipped that far down.
Correct. I think had he not been injured, he would have been picked a lot higher. An ACL injury is very difficult to overcome, but it's not impossible, as we see it every year in the NFL.
Yeah, so you always hear the stories of people coming back from injuries like that and actually playing at pretty high levels still.
Right, so he may not make a huge impact this year, but moving forward, he should be pretty strong.
Speaking of moving forward, we're going to move on to round number 5, the 142nd overall pick from Washington. They made a trade with Washington with this guy, DJ Reed, a cornerback out of Kansas State. Now that makes sense. Okay, so the other guy they're probably going to use as a safety, right?
Right.
And this guy is going to be their corner. They're going to have this guy come in at 5'9", 188 pounds. That's a little small for a corner, don't you think?
A little small, but that to me tells me that he is actually going to be the nickel guy, very shifty, covering those guys that can go either direction on him. Not a guy that's going to be very useful in run support, but on those passing situations, he should be very viable in both man and zone coverage.
It does look pretty wiry in the pictures that we've seen of him. So, it looks like he's just a little guy that's going to run fast.
Right.
And getting away from that, they actually picked up a safety, Marcel Harris, out of Florida in the 6th round, 184th overall.
Yeah, this is another guy that, slipped a little bit due to injury. But it really shows that, they're really focusing on stopping the pass, which I think goes hand in hand with their passing offense. If you can shut down the pass while you have a big lead, it's going to be very difficult for teams to catch up with you.
And that seems like the basic NFL formula for years that they're trying to get away from the winter Super Bowls and things like that. They want to be more pass heavy those years because if they don't get the weather as much, especially if teams that have domes or play in warm weather climates are actually the teams that are winning, there'll be more playoff games in these warm scenarios.
Right, especially when they run into teams, that are run first. It'll be even more difficult for them to catch up because the pass is not their first option. If they're already stacked up on that pass defense and you're getting the offense away from what they want to do, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep up with this team.
Do you think that they're drafting all this safety and cornerback depth to counter Goff and the Rams?
I think it's a combination. I think that they're trying to stop Goff, but I think they're looking big picture. You look in the NFC, you got offenses like Philadelphia, Minnesota, New Orleans, Atlanta. I can talk all day about the offenses in the NFC that are just these prolific, high-powered offenses. I didn't even mention Green Bay.
Yeah, and they were considered a small, weaker team last year because of Aaron Rodgers was hurt.
Right.
But now that he's back, all these high-powered offenses over there, and I'm actually starting to be impressed with a little bit of these AFC offenses that they've been building up too. But we'll continue talking about some offensive firepower, the top 10 offensive firepower teams, probably next episode here live on Facebook and also on YouTube.
Right.
So, round 7, 223rd overall from Miami. A pick from Miami.
Apparently they didn't have any original draft picks.
No, they ended up just getting a bunch.
Whatever.
Julian Taylor, a defensive tackle out of Temple.
Right. This guy seems more like a special teams type of player, maybe a practice squad kind of guy, maybe depth if there's injuries.
I think he's a rare secret of a player in this draft because he's 6'5". He's 280 pounds as a defensive tackle. You can always bulk guys up. What you can't do is you can't make a 4.83 40-yard dash time, and you can't do 31 reps on bench press with that kind of weight and not expect to be explosive.
Right. This guy, when when you look at his characteristics, right? This is a guy that like Al Davis would scream, bang on the table to get.
Yes.
A fast, strong defensive tackle to just punish offensive linemen. I just am kind of skeptical coming from Temple. I'm not really sure if I would buy into it against the teams that they would be playing on a consistent basis.
He's a big guy. He'll, as soon as he bulks up, he might lose a 0.1 off of that second in his 40 time. But that explosiveness and that strength that he's going to get back from that extra weight, he's going to be a dangerous player.
Brian Bosworth is all I'm going to say.
All right, well. Round 7, 240th overall pick. They stole from Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Richie James, a wide receiver out of Middle Tennessee State. This guy's 5'10", 183 pounds. So basically you see a little scat guy, kind of a Jacoby Ford type character.
Perhaps, yeah. Definitely out of the slot for sure.
Yeah, with that kind of height, you don't really get very good matchups on the outside. But then it sounds like in his 2015 season, he put up 1,300 yards, and then 2016, he put up 1,600 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's
and
impressive.
20 touchdowns in the 2 years, and the last year he got injured. This guy actually I like a lot more than some of the receivers that were picked rounds before him in the draft.
Really?
Yeah. Reason being is because if you're coming from a small school, you have to be a monster at your position. Look at Khalil Mack.
That's true.
With him producing those numbers, he's saying that I am that much better than everyone else that I'm playing, even if he's not playing Alabama or LSU every single week. You look at those numbers right there, and that when I look at it, I see Golden Tate. I see a guy that can play inside, not so much outside really, but like, a guy that can produce yards after the catch, score in the end zone. With 20 touchdowns in 2 years is hard for anyone to do.
And especially at 5'10".
Right.
That's impressive.
And so if you're going to be doing things like that, you've got to have great hands, running crisp routes, very sound football. And I like the pick. I think it's a low risk, high reward type of guy because if it doesn't work out at a 7th round pick, you can easily get rid of him and have that be it.
It seems like most of the experts like that pick as well.
Mm-hmm.
They really like the Pettis pick. That was something that they thought was going to give them some value. A B+, or no, B even from NFL.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too bad. ESPN gave it a B-. Bleacher Report, which is just a bunch of random dudes like us, B. And then, I don't know, MMQB was a B, Roto World was an A.
Roto World gave him an A.
Yeah.
I value them.
You really do?
Oh my goodness. They're unbiased. They don't care about nonsense. Roto World is a very good source in regards to information, both general football knowledge and fantasy.
Thank you, David, by the way.
David Palmer?
Yeah, David Palmer.
Hey.
So,
what do you give him?
Huh?
What do you give him as a grade?
Me, overall?
Yeah.
From looking at this, and because we kind of just looked over this right now in front of all of you,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that they did improve for Garoppolo, so I'm going to give it a solid B.
Mm-hmm.
Solid B sounds about right because they get some depth. They also get some players that are going to be impact players too at the same time.
Yeah.
For Garoppolo, and that's the main goal, is to get Garoppolo weapons around him to build this team up.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think a B is a fair thing. They didn't really get any steals in the draft, and they did get the low risk, high reward players like we talked about. But at the same time, they you can tell they had a game plan. They stuck to it. We mentioned it a little bit off camera, but I think that they will be the best team in the NFC to not make the playoffs.
And I disagree with that statement. I think that they are the wild card team coming out of the NFC West this year. I think that Garoppolo is going to upgrade this team a lot with this new mix of players coming in with him. I feel like the GM, ownership, all of them are really looking out for Garoppolo. And with, Seahawks are kind of falling apart a little bit on the defensive side.
A lot of it.
Tyrann Mathieu being gone from Arizona. Those are easily winnable games for the 49ers this season, so I have high hopes for the 49ers, and I hope all of you do too. If you think so as well, write in the comments. We're going to be wrapping up right now. Like I said, we'll be back to talk about some of the most prolific offenses. We'll probably give a top 10 live video for all of you. I don't know when. We'll plan it out, and we'll write in the comments on my page, so stay tuned.
Peace.